It's finally time to talk about my favorite animal in the animal kingdom, the American toad. I've been awaiting these animals to come out of brumation all the year, and I can't wait to share what we got for you this year. It's unlike anything that you've ever seen from Frog Week before. I promise you, at the end of this episode, you're going to see the passion and the enthusiasm that I have caring for these animals, whether it's the home team indoors or it's the away team out in the yard. You'll get a chance to see passion and conservation for the American toad, unlike you've ever seen on YouTube. This episode mostly takes place at the house because this year I decided to make an effort to help save the toads crossing the road and also document the toads that were coming to the yard to reproduce. So this is dedicated to all of those brave American toads crossing roads just to get to our ponds and vernal pools. The American toad breeding season was much later in the western woods than it had ever been for the last 5 years of doing Frog Week. We hadn't seen an American toad until April, and they usually were coming out maybe the early or middle of March. So to see them so much later was truly a significant thing, as a true testament to how cold the lows truly were, that the American toads were actually pushing back their breeding season. As you get a chance to see here, we waited all day for the hottest day of the year up to this point, and then whenever it became night, you believe it, all of the American toads came to the house. There really wasn't a whole lot to say because I was just awestruck in the moment to see so many American toads hanging out at the pond once again. I knew this was the beginning of what was going to be an epic toad breeding season, and it didn't disappoint, especially on this night. I took field notes on this night as well, and this is exactly what it says at 8:30 p.m. Tonight, the American toads came to the house. We had 2 of them that died on the road, 2 male American toads trying to cross the street to get to the house. So I decided to start looking for them as I was filming the toads that had already arrived in the backyard. There was a lot of activity, probably around 12 toads total. I found an eastern redback salamander on the sidewalk. The American bullfrog was active. It was in the 60s all night, and I was out about 6 hours filming, so from 8:30 p.m. until about 2:30 a.m. I was watching over the toads. There was definitely reason to watch over them because I saw an opossum eating birdseed at the bird feeder. There's an upcoming scene where the American toads are out calling while there's a fire truck going off and the dog is barking, and it gives you the true understanding that these are toads calling in a backyard. They're not out deep in the forest, and they're not in some private area where they're going to be safe. This is in the middle of a backyard where anything can happen. So just sit back and listen to this and watch how these American toads react in the suburban neighborhood. This is what Frog Week is all about, helping these animals in these environments. But take a listen. We had to go from the night into the day. What an exciting night it was, filming for 6 hours from 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. I got the chance to see a lot of action unfold at the pond, and I loved every second of it. But what followed the very next day was one of the most exciting times, because the American toads decided that they weren't going to reproduce at night. No, they were actually going to wait until the next day. So we were able to get fantastic shots of these animals as they were reproducing. Who'd have thought we'd get so lucky to see the females actually laying their eggs in the pond as we're filming? It doesn't get any better than this. We've been blessed for over 7 years with at least one pair of American toads coming to the pond and laying eggs for the future generation of these neighborhood toads to continue. It's no question that after the Frog Week project began and I became more of a neighborhood watch over these American toads in the neighborhood and all other parts of the western woods, their numbers started to come back and increase. I remember being a kid, used to see American toads all over the place. However, right before the Frog Week project took off, there was a couple years where there were no American toads present. It was very hard to find them. It was unbelievable how they declined in a suburban neighborhood, even with woods on both sides. So, the Frog Week Conservation Project has truly been a success, creating habitat for these animals to breed and reproduce, and also places to live for these animals to thrive, even whenever they're coming out of the water as young toads. It's been one of the most rewarding experiences seeing every year these toads make the trip from across the street or somewhere else in the neighborhood to come to our pond and reproduce. This is what Frog Week is all about, creating habitat, enabling the success for future generations, and keeping a neighborhood watch on all of our local frogs and toads, especially my favorite, and I'm going to be impartial, the American toad.
I'm Dave Lester. My wife Linda here. We're the founders of Nathan's Divide. We're somewhat responsible for most of what you'll encounter in this area today. Anyway, AAron here got a hold of us and said he wanted to teach people about frogs, and I said, this is what it's all about. So,
hello, thank you guys for joining us today. My name is AAron Capouellez. I'm the founder of a nonprofit, PA Woods and Forests. I look around and I see some people who look familiar, whether you're a part of the nonprofit, a volunteer, or you guys have come to some of the frog walks. So I appreciate everybody coming out. I'll play a game with you guys, and then the second one is I want to get a group picture if we're all okay with that. And a brief disclaimer, I'm also having people film this so we could use it for the nonprofit. Alright, so we're going to start with the first frog. So just let me know if you guys have heard this frog before, and maybe tell me what it is if you know what it is. Even the vernal pool breeders utilizing this. We're on sort of a hillish type of a terrain, so some bodies of water are going to have a harder time collecting, so it's going to be more difficult to find vernal pools, especially out here, like on this side, like directly here. So there are frogs and toads in this area. They're usually going to be going into this location to breed, so like your American toads and spring peepers and wood frogs and things that you would probably find in like shallow bodies of water, they will utilize this. The irony of talking about an animal that would come here to breed and he shows up, right? This is one of the most common species, but recently, personally, I've seen declines, and I've been doing a lot of work with the nonprofit to establish suburban habitats, also management practices to help these animals continue to live among people. Again, it's one of the best animals you could have on your property. They eat all kinds of pests like mosquitoes, calling for territory. Their breeding season doesn't normally start until May. With it being warm though, it might be early this year. But yeah, Yeah, so this is the American bullfrog. It's a male. It's probably an older specimen.
Wow. How did you see that?
I don't know. It's a male. He's right there. Let me see if I can get a picture of him. I've got to be careful though.
Oh, now I can see him.
Movement will trigger him.
It's little.
Excellent vision. Yeah.
Those photographs would
You're right on the corner.
show my wife that.
There we go. What would an American Toad project be like on the Woods and Forests Media YouTube channel if we didn't talk about our mascot, the animal and the star of this channel, Ace, the female American toad, who actually, June 3rd, celebrated her 7th birthday with us. She is truly my inspiration for conservation. She's why I push so hard every year for American toads, because of the personality and the resiliency that she's shown. I can't wait in future episodes to share with you Ace's story. She's going to get a 240 gallon, and we're going to do things that nobody's ever done before with American toads and native species. She's the perfect toad to be a star. She was featured in newspaper articles and also on the local news. There's nothing that this little toad can't do. She's impacted my life, and she's the reason why we have a Frog Week, to be honest with you. She is that important. I can't thank her enough. And just like that, the night of the frog walk would end, and the day of the falling action for the American toads would begin. Of course, we were capturing a lot of this information with our weather station and our weather camera, and also we were picking up a lot of fantastic scenes from the Woods and Forests Media DJI Mini Drone 2. It's truly incredible to catch these aerial images to give you a perspective of the area that the wood frogs and some of the American toads were coming to, either to reproduce or to take shelter. Evening would soon transition into night, and that meant the American toads would be joining us at the pond very soon. This was going to be more of a falling action because the majority of the female American toads for the year already released their eggs and mated. So we were going to approach the falling action, and that meant fewer opportunities for the American toad males. As you can see here, they weren't afraid of the bullfrogs. This pond was going to be run by the male American toads. They weren't backing down, and they weren't running away from any other challenger. Whether that be good or bad, these toads stood their ground against animals like that bullfrog who could easily consume them. But just like you see here with this other bullfrog, that would come back to bite them in a later episode. But until then, we have the opportunity to enjoy the night of the toads. Everything here, like we've got the trail camera, we got the GoPro, we've got the Sony camera, I'm on the phone, we've got a neat little light here. I've really tried to pull out all the stops for this time to get a very good perspective on what's actually happening. We have another male that I just found, and this guy might actually be an offspring from one of the toads who was the most remarkable, and he had some of the most impressive markings. This toad here has similar markings. So that's exactly what a couple years ago that male toad actually looked like. So really incredible to see that this toad may have actually been born here, and I might actually know who his father is, and I might have actually caught him on film for a couple years straight. Now that toad has not returned here for the last 2 years. He's probably sadly died somehow. But this might be proof that some of his offspring have survived and they're back. So we'll have to see if this guy here ends up getting a mate and being like his, I don't know if we want to call him alleged father or potential father, but I guess my suspected guess as to who his father is. If you look close enough, this salamander is actually missing its tail. That means it was at some point in its life attacked by a predator. Whenever I told you the American toads were not backing down even to the bullfrogs, I meant it. This isn't even the best example. The American toads hammered the bullfrogs this year. They almost caused 2 bullfrogs to drown. one during the day and one at night. There were so many toads grabbing onto the bullfrogs, it was almost like they knew that these were predators and they were taking them down before the bullfrogs were ready to eat for the season. See, when bullfrogs come out, they're not yet ready to eat or to breed. They're just waking up and they're just warming up. So there's a few week window where they're not hungry yet, and these toads were taking advantage of that, almost killing these bullfrogs, but they weren't backing down. There must be a fourth pool here somewhere. I have not gotten to that pool, and with Maria being here and she has her fishing license, so now I'm able to get more than just 25, so that's kind of nice. There's not that many left in here. I've been doing a good job. I am hoping and anticipating that if I come back one more night, I might have everybody that I need, because it's going to rain then. So I'm just getting out as many as I can. Worst case scenario, this puddle here, which is once a mighty vernal pool, will dry out like the rest of it. Worst case scenario, wood frog tadpoles die. Best case scenario, at least a few thousand, tens of thousands of them are over across the street and they have a chance to survive. So now, I know you can't get too close, but I brought some water here. We were gonna take it across the street and apply it to the tadpoles, you know, the whole overall overarching group, because we have tens of thousands of tadpoles from this vernal pool and probably tens of thousands of tadpoles that were born there. So it's all one big melting pot of wood frog and spring peeper eggs and spotted salamander eggs. So I'm trying to keep that hydrated, trying to keep water in that. For this one, we're just trying to get out the remaining straggler spring peeper and wood frog tadpoles. I did bring some extra water for over there. However, it's going to be warmer tomorrow, it's going to be drier, it's going to be sunnier. So this vernal pool could actually dry up. Luckily for the remaining tadpoles that we didn't catch tonight, I'm done with school around noon, and I'll be done with a meeting around 1 or 2. So I'll be here in the heat of the day as it's drying up. So I'll be able to bring some water, be able to rescue whoever's remaining, and hopefully get them across the street. And then the nice thing is, the next day after that, it calls for rain. So that's going to get filled up, and then this will hopefully be regenerated enough for whoever's alive to continue to move throughout the pool and continue life. I didn't show enough footage of me moving 25 tadpoles at a time, which is the state limit, across the street into a more permanent vernal pool that lasts months longer, and especially if we get rain. It's a necessary thing to do with trying to conserve and help the wood frog, American toad, spring peeper, and spotted salamander populations. Special thanks to Nathan's Divide and the Westmoreland Land Trust for hosting these 2 frog walks. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share my passion with the public, and to any poachers out there, both Nathan's Divide and the Westmoreland Land Trust prohibit the collection of any animals, and people do patrol both places. So if anybody's thinking about taking any of these frogs or toads, think again. I also want to give a quick shout out and special thanks to our sponsors, Josh's Frogs, who have sponsored all 5 frog weeks. Thank you guys. I couldn't have done it without you guys either. Thanks again, Josh's Frogs. What we do and some different things that we're doing. Again, we'll see what we find tonight. I'm going to point out habitat. I'm going to point out plants. I'm a graduate student at IUP. I study frogs and toads. Would like to actually do it for a career. So that's pretty much the rundown. Are there any questions before we go forward?
Do you have a site that always has what the latest things are going to be?
Yeah, I have some business cards, and if I run out, because we already went through about 100 or more in the last week, you can take a picture of it and feel free to go on, check out the events, check out different stuff that we're doing. Happy to kind of talk here, but these are a good indicator of a wetland. This is one of the wetland plants. I think it's like some type of like ivy or something. I'd have to ID it. I can't ID it right now. So a black rat snake is same snake. Yeah, it's I think the 3rd largest snake in the United States. It's a constrictor. If we're doing this type of conservation project, there are not that many toads around here. Now, for example, we've got 5 male toads and 1 female. Right over here, look at that, jockeying for position. Some key takeaways from this episode are that we were able to host 2 separate frog walks in the western woods in Pennsylvania. We were able to rescue wood frog tadpoles from a drying vernal pool, and we relocated them to a more permanent situation. We documented the American toads as they began calling, and we even followed along as they continued their tradition of reproducing for 7 years in the backyard pond. And last but not least, it's undoubtedly the most sentimental part of this entire episode, having the opportunity to reintroduce you, or if you're new, introduce you to my female American toad, Ace, who is undoubtedly the star of this YouTube channel and the Instagram page, but she's also my inspiration, where I draw all of my passion from, how personable she is, the bond that we have, and how special she truly is to me, and at some point, the rest of the world is going to get that opportunity to meet her. I couldn't have started the nonprofit or done Frog Week without seeing her resiliency as she's battled through so many different life-challenging circumstances. She was wild caught and rescued, and she's truly made a difference in my life. But guys, if you like the content, please consider subscribing, make sure you share with your friends, and tune in because we have 5 more episodes of Frog Week. So don't miss anything. Hit that bell icon and come back tomorrow. We got some great stuff for you. And Frog Week 2023 rolls on. Thank you guys.